Hello friends and welcome to lesson 4 of unit 2, which is target setting and compensation. So far as you have seen, we have covered pricing analysis, auto price and sales and distribution analysis. Today we'll talk about the sales target setting and the compensation which you give to the sales force. The learning objectives will be: we'll try to understand the sales learning curve. Then we'll see how to set the sales targets and what are the different approaches for target setting. And then we'll talk about the sales compensation. Let us start with the sales learning curve. In the sales learning curve, we have three phases. First is initiation, where we test the new product, we try to enter the new market, and we employ the sales force, and which is not very big, maybe sometimes only one salesperson, and we don't know how that salesperson is able to perform because no one from established company would be joining during this stage. So we call them Renaissance rep, max 2 to 3, but many times it is only a single person who is doing it. How you come to know that you have moved from initiation to transition phase is when the cost that you are bearing on that rep is equal to the revenue or the sales which that rep is bringing. So when it is equal, that is the break-even point, and that is where we move from initiation to transition phase. So when your sales rep, the cost which you are putting on that rep is trying to bring 3 times the sales of that cost, that is when you move from transition to execution phase. So in the transition, you increase the sales force and you get some of the other support in terms of technical, right? And you get the marketing department behind you, you build that department. And then when it reaches 3x, you move on to the execution phase. In the execution phase, you get full marketing support. You have a sales engineering support, that is the analytics. Then the dedicated territories are given to different sales teams. In a way, you get a lot of resources during the execution phase. So this is how your sales learning curve moves, and you start with the Renaissance rep to someone who is the chief sales officer, and then you have dedicated sales teams working in different territories. Now, one of the questions here is, when you have reached the execution stage, where will the staff, where will the Renaissance rep go? So what generally the companies do, since they are growing, they are expanding, they are entering new territories. So this person, this Renaissance rep is very, very important because he has grown with the company, he has understood how the sales learning curve behaves. So generally the companies move them to the new locations or the new territories where you are trying to introduce either that product, or with the existing product you are entering a new market. So why we set the sales target? As you know that we do come out with the objectives, and based on those then we come up with the strategy, and then the tactics, the 4 P's we discussed. So one of the things is you need to study the market and then come out that what will be your annual sales number. So that is the first thing you do, because without knowing that, without setting the sales number, don't know in future how much investment you are going to make, how much growth you are going to have. So with the money that is coming in, you decide about the investments. Then you decide about the operational cost, what sort of operations you have to put. Will you be adding new operations, or would you like to continue with the same set of operations? All will depend on the sales number. And then you come out that the basic company objective, that what you had been anticipating as the annual growth. So whether the sales number they go or they gel with the company objective of annual growth. So it is very important to forecast the annual sales number. And generally we call it as a sales number. It can be a unit, it can be in terms of the value, but here we are talking about the volume, the numbers. For example, if we are dealing in cars, the number of cars you are going to sell in 1 year. So once you do the sales forecasting, that is for a year, that will decide your future revenue and that will decide your future earnings, based on which you will be able to see how the stock market will behave, how your shares will be there in the market. Now, the decision team for deciding or setting the sales target looks like this. So you have the executive team on top, then you have the sales management team, and then the field sales force. So these are the three levels where the sales team work. Now there are two approaches for setting the target. One is the top-down approach and the other is the bottom-up approach. Now when we talk about the top-down forecasting, so basically the executive team, keeping in view the company objectives, decides the sales number, convey that to the sales management, and the sales management team conveys that to the field staff, which is the field sales force. So the factors which they consider while deciding the sales number is the size of the market, product readiness, whether the product is ready to be in the market, the BOD, Board of Directors input, and the company's growth objective. Once they decide, then they convey that to the lower level and then to the field staff. In bottoms-up forecasting, the sales force in the field convey that what they think should be the sales number. That comes to the sales management and then it is conveyed to the executive team. So in this, at different levels, the factors which they consider is the pipeline. That means the capacity to sell. Number two is whether we are dealing with new customers or we are penetrating the existing market. And what is the sales size, sales force size? That is the rep capacity and also the productivity of the sales rep in the sales force. And what is the hiring plan for the coming year? So all these things are kept in mind when it is conveyed to the executive team. So for example, the bottoms-up forecasting, that means the field staff and then the sales management in the middle and then the executive team is conveyed 40% sales growth, as an example we take. Whereas the top-down forecasting is saying 50% growth objective. The question is, which approach is better, bottoms up or top down? It should not happen that we are trying to enforce the sales number onto the field staff, that is the field sales force. On the other hand, it should not happen that the target set by the field staff is very easy to achieve and is low as per the company objectives of growth. So how do we finalize that? So what we do is generally we try to look at all the factors and then see whether the field staff and the sales management is okay with the sales growth which the top-down approach has given. Similarly, the top-down approach figure, which is in this case 50%, should not be enforced. So that means they should be taken in confidence before finalizing that. And the factors which are there in the bottoms up, they should be considered by the top-down executive team. So this is how in coordination between the field staff and the executive team, it is finalized. So next we talk about the sales compensation. So if the sales force is doing good, or they are compensated for their extra efforts of the sales they are bringing in. So firstly, let us talk about the components of compensation. In the compensation, you have the base salary, which is your fixed compensation. Then you have the commission, which is the variable expense. So the variable expense is dependent on the quota. Quota, there are many things in quota, but here we are talking about the volume of sales which they bring. And we can say the sales number, which we were deciding for target setting. So how many cars, if I'm talking of cars, they have been asked to sell. So in a way, it can be territory quota and so on, but here we are talking of the sales volume. So one of the things as a thumb rule, what we do is that the sales rep has to bring in 3 to 4 times of sales of the compensation which he or she is getting. So generally the sales generated is 3 to 4 times of the compensation. So let us understand this through a compensation curve, how we decide the compensation. So there is a term which we say OTE, which is on target earnings. Now if we look at this graph here, the compensation curve, for example, we have set the target for 1 million. The sales number is 1 million. And as I said, that 3 to 4 times of the compensation should be the sales brought by the rep. So in this case, the compensation is 250, which is 1/4 of the target, which is 1 million. Out of this 250, 125 K is your fixed compensation, and the variable is 125, so total becomes 250. And this is your OT, that is the on target earning. So this is the curve in white which you are seeing. So if the rep or the sales force is able to bring 500K, so this is the fixed part is 125, and they will get the compensation as per this curve. And there is a steep rise here, so you can see when they have achieved the OT earnings will also go up in terms of they will get 125K, so the total earning which is fixed is 125 and variable is 125 is 250 once they achieve the 1 million. So now the question is, when they are able to do well and when it goes beyond 1 million, so what we do is it can go like this. So they keep on getting more, so it is very steep here. They keep on getting more compensation, but maybe after some time it may flatten out depending on the growth in the market and the market share and the aggressive sales campaign which they are running. So this becomes very steep now. So you may give, because this is a bonus for the company also beyond 100 million. So this is unexpected, it is going up. So then they give a more compensation, which is again 250 added, but with less numbers, they are able to compensate more. So this is how we decide the compensation by drawing this compensation curve. So that is all for this lesson. So let me summarize. We talked about sales learning curve. We talked about target setting in terms of the sales number, and then we will do that for 1 year, that is the annual sales number. And what are the different approaches for target setting? We discussed top-down and bottoms-up approach, and then we talked about the compensation. Here is a small quiz, so have your notebooks out. So once you move from your first stage of initiation to the last one, execution, so where do these Renaissance reps go? That is question number one. Number two question is, dollars generated is generally dash to dash times of compensation. How many times of compensation? The growth objective is looked at in which type of approach of target setting, whether it is top down or bottoms up. You can check your answers. The Renaissance reps, once they move from phase 1 to 2 or 3, that is the next stage, then they are moved to the new territories. Dollars generated is generally 3 to 4 times of compensation. Growth objective is looked at in top-down approach. Well, that is all for this lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to send me one email and I'll respond back to you. For further readings, you can take up this case study on LG Electronics in India, which is called LGEI, and this is based on sales, how they reinvented their brand to increase their sales number. So thank you very much for being such a good audience, and I'll come next time with the next lesson. Bye for now.